What's up, Green Bay Packers fans? Welcome back. And as always, thank you for joining me. My name's Paul Brettel. It's a Packers win, but it's a short week. However, before we turn our full focus to this upcoming Thursday where the Green Bay Packers take on the Detroit Lions, let's, for the most part, enjoy this Victory Monday that we find ourselves in at the moment. We're going to dive into my key takeaways from the Packers' performance against the Chargers. But first, hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I do greatly appreciate it. You can find all my work over at Packers Wire, and you can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. So, as I said, we're going to dive into my key takeaways. This is an article form over at Packers Wire. It's part of my Behind the Numbers series, where after rewatching the game, I dive into the key stats figures that you need to know about that help define the Green Bay Packers' performance on the football field. So let's dive in with our first takeaway, first standout performance. 322. Those were the passing yards for Jordan Love, and he became the first Packers quarterback in almost 2 years to eclipse the 300-yard passing mark. Hard to believe, I know, but it had been a long time since he or Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay Packers uniform had accomplished that feat. And again, it was another really, really sound performance from Jordan Love. And unlike in some previous performances that we've seen, there wasn't just the progress and the process for us to hang on to. The results followed as well with that game-winning drive late in the game. The Chargers played as they do under Brandon Staley. A lot of split safety looks. It's the same style of defense that the Packers utilize here in Green Bay under Joe Barry, where the intention is to take away the vertical passing game, force the offense to be patient, plot their way down the field, 10-play drives, 12-play drives, and the assumption, for lack of a better term, is when an offense has to, again, plot their way down the field, string together that many positive plays in order to score. Either they're going to make a mistake or the defense is going to capitalize on an opportunity that's presented to them and kill the drive. But Jordan Love did a really good job of remaining patient. He took what was available to him, didn't force anything, went through his progressions, and because of yards after the catch opportunities, which I'll get to here in a minute, the offense was still able to generate some chunk plays. And after going back and rewatching the game, after taking it in up in the press box, one of the things that stood out on the rewatch to me more so than watching it live was there were a number of really, really good throws from Jordan Love. Obviously, watching it live, that pass to Christian Watson on the touchdown, like that pass was beautiful, just dropped into a bucket. The touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs for the game-winning drive as well. But as you're rewatching the game, there was that, I think it was a third down play, quick out to Luke Musgrave, who was blanketed, and Love put it where only Musgrave could get it in tight coverage. On the pass, I believe, to Dontavian Wicks on that final drive. Love is rolling out of the pocket to his left to avoid pressure, throws back across his body with an interior defensive lineman closing in, throws just an absolute strike. Like, again, rewatching the game, there were a lot of throws where you go, oh, wow, that was impressive. So this wasn't just, like I said, he did a good job being efficient. He went through his progressions, took what was available. This wasn't a game managing, style of victory either. Like, Love made plays happen for this Packers offense. And again, from a process standpoint, we're continuing to see that progression from him. And like I said, the results came with it this time as the Packers finally were able to overcome that hump, so to speak, in terms of a game-winning drive. There were 4 times previously before this game where the Green Bay Packers had given up a fourth quarter lead, where their defense had given up a fourth quarter lead, and they were 0-4 in these games. This was the 5th time that it happened, but this time Green Bay came out on top in what was Love's best performance of the season. Again, they're progressing, they're building upon their previous performances, and again, the results came. It turned out well for Love and the Packers offense. So next up, I'm going to talk about the Packers red zone defense. This was a key aspect of the game. Matt LaFleur said that the Packers red zone defense, specifically in the fourth quarter, was a key reason that they won. The Chargers ended up having 4 red zone possessions in this game, and the Packers on offense, they just had 2. So had the red zone defense not been as effective, this game very well could have ended in, the pendulum swinging in the other direction and the Chargers winning this game. As I mentioned, they made 4 trips. They only converted one of those opportunities into a touchdown. They settled for 2 field goals and other opportunities, and the Packers were able to generate a turnover in the other. Now, of course, and I'm going to touch on this more later as well, the Chargers helped the Packers out in the situation with some key drops that didn't allow them to find the end zone. The Packers were finally the benefactor of some self-inflicted wounds from the opponent rather than the other way around. But I think the Packers overall red zone performance started with their play against the run. Matt LaFleur from the Packers perspective this past week was asked about how does Green Bay get better inside the red zone, because that's where they've really struggled as of late. This game, they were 1 for 2. At least from a percentage standpoint, that was an improvement, although it didn't have as many trips as they had previously. But I digress. Anyway, when Matt LaFleur was asked, right, how do you become more effective in the red zone? What has to change? What do you have to do? It came down to running the football. And again, that's oftentimes a catalyst when you're inside the 20-yard line. That's already such a condensed part of the field. It's difficult to move the ball through the air when there's just less space to work with. And when you don't have a run game to lean on, the defense doesn't have to worry about it. That gives them extra attention towards a passing game. That allows them to put potentially an additional defender in the passing game, which clogs things up more difficult to find open space. So the run game, having that element to lean on inside the 20 is huge. And outside of Austin Eckler's 37-yard run, which at least initially the Green Bay Packers did defend well, Devontae Wyatt was right there at the line of scrimmage, a yard or two in the backfield, wherever it was there, to make the tackle. He just did not come through with that play. Ended up turning into a 37-yard run for Eckler. But outside of that one play, Eckler, Joshua Kelly, they had 15 carries for just 40 yards combined between the two. So again, I think the success that the Packers did have in the red zone, some help from the Chargers, but started with their ability to contain the Chargers run game. Next big takeaway, we already touched on it a little bit, but Packers won the turnover battle 1-0. This was a matchup that did not favor the Green Bay Packers coming into the game, winning this turnover battle. The Chargers entered the game on offense, turning the ball over the fewest number of times in the NFL. Their defense was one of the best. I believe they've generated the 4th most takeaways coming into week 11, and they led the NFL in fumble recoveries. Packers, on the flip side, they've struggled in those two areas. They've been, especially through the middle of the portion of the season and during that losing streak, very turnover prone on offense, specifically interceptions from Jordan Love. And their defense, something Matt LaFleur has talked about over and over and over again as of late, they just have not been able to generate those key takeaways, those pivotal game-changing type plays have not come the Packers' direction. Like I said, on paper, from a matchup standpoint, based on how these two teams have played up to this point in the season, like I said, not a matchup that favored the Green Bay Packers. However, they capitalized on the lone turnover of the game, winning that battle 1-0. Came obviously at a crucial point too. Chargers are on the verge of punching it in the end zone inside the Packers 5-yard line, and it started by Austin Eckler. It looked like he slipped, and then when he popped back up, Kenny Clark was right there to knock that ball loose. So Kenny Clark took advantage of that opportunity. Like I said, Green Bay wins the turnover battle. It's only the 3rd time in their 10 games that they've won the turnover battle. They're now 2-1 in games where they do win that. So obviously that's always going to be a really, really important element to any game, whether you're talking about the Packers or whoever. Turnovers obviously matter. We all know that. But for a team that the margin for error is so small right now, winning the turnover battle is a must. Losing it is, maybe doesn't guarantee defeat, but definitely stacks the odds against this Green Bay Packers team. However, if you're able to win it, obviously from a defensive standpoint, that helps you out. You're getting off the field. From the offense's perspective, the Packers offense, it's an extra possession or two to try to go put up points. Chances are you're going to be getting some better field position in many instances. Again, increasing your opportunities to put up points. So that's a key matchup each week or element of the game each week. Matt LaFleur says he wants to win that battle 2-0 every single week. Packers have struggled to do so, but in this game, came out on top against the Chargers, winning that 1-0. Next up, the Chargers had 4 massive drops in this game. In addition to this behind the numbers article over at Packers Wire, I have a specific article devoted to these miscues from the Chargers. Like I mentioned previously, the Packers have been the one this season gifting their opponent these mistakes, whether it's wrong routes, interceptions, drop passes, you name it. The Green Bay Packers have been uh, their own worst enemy on a number of occasions this season. However, this time they were on the other end of that, where it was the Chargers. It was their opponent, the one who is in having these self-inflicted errors that had massive, massive consequences on this game for the Chargers. So, like I said, there were 4 key drops in this game. The first came on the Chargers' opening possession. It's 4th and 4. They're already in Packers territory at the 43-yard line. Justin Herbert hits Donald Parham over the middle, hits him right in the hands, right in the chest, and he drops it. It's turnover on downs, Packers ball around midfield, whereas if he had caught it, they're well within field goal range at that point. It's a fresh set of downs. Who knows how the drive ends at that point? At least, most likely, in a field goal attempt. Next drop came in the second quarter. It's 3rd and 5 from the Packers 7. Herbert finds Keenan Allen in that right corner towards that right pylon, drops it. If he catches it, it's at a minimum of first down, sets up 1st and goal from the 1 or 2 yard line. And honestly, if he catches it, he probably gets in the end zone for a touchdown. Chargers ended up having to settle for a field goal instead of getting 6. Third quarter, again, another Keenan Allen drop in the this time in the end zone on 3rd down, which results in the Chargers having to kick a field goal rather than getting a touchdown. And then at the end of the game, Chargers' final drive, Quentin Johnson flat out beats Carrington Valentine down that right sideline. Ball's placed perfectly for him. If he catches it, probably a touchdown. But again, worst case scenario, if Valentine somehow finds a way to catch up, he's tackled. They're in field goal range to tie the game. But like I said, chances are it's a touchdown that ends up being the go-ahead score for the Chargers very late in the game. So if we add up those miscues, put all those lost points together, conservatively, that's 14 points the Chargers left off the board. I got to that number on that first drive, again, where they're in field goal territory. If they get the field goal, that's 3. 2 red zone drops, that's 8 points, 4-4, by getting the field goal instead of the 7. And then again, if they kick a field goal at the end of the game rather than getting a touchdown, that's 14 points. On the high end, it could have been as many as 22 points. Obviously, either way, that changes the outcome of the game. Honestly, if even one of these receptions are made, we could be talking about a completely different outcome for how this game ended. So Packers absolutely benefited from miscues from this Chargers team. And to go down a different path here for a second about the defense, they needed those miscues to happen. Like on paper, this matchup, nothing about it favored the Green Bay Packers. The Chargers on their from an offensive perspective absolutely had the advantage in this game. Coming with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, one of the most effective, efficient receivers in football, and they're going up against a secondary that is down their 5 preferred starters from week 1 of the regular season. They have 2 7th-round rookies that are starting. Corey Ballantyne has been a practice squad player for most of his career. And then you got Jonathan Owens. Last year, his 4th season in the NFL with the Houston Texans was his first as a starter. He's been a backup here most of his time up until injuries as of late. Like, the Chargers had all of the advantage in this game. So yes, this Green Bay Packers defense gave up a number of chunk plays in this game. And to a degree, like I said, that was to be expected. It's kind of what came with the territory with this matchup. Keenan Allen had 116 receiving yards, but Keenan Allen does that to everybody, almost regardless of who the opponent is. He's just been that good this season. He's targeted that heavily in this Chargers offense by Justin Herbert. So again, I think a lot of those, it's frustrating to watch in the moment. They gave up another late lead, to another opponent, something that we've seen way too much of this season. The pass rush, while they were able to get around Herbert, they weren't able to, pressure him enough where it turned into a sack or, led to an incompletion or a throwing the ball away. Herbert had, I believe, over 70 rushing yards in this game, in part a product of the pass rush not being able to get home. Like I said, there was a ton of areas where this group had to be better. However, this was a very, very difficult matchup to come into this game for this defense. I just talked about from a personnel standpoint who the Chargers have on offense, who the Packers had defensively, specifically in the secondary on the field, and also from a schematic standpoint. Joe Barry, what's he supposed to do in that situation? The playing a ton of cover two is probably the way to go. It's what the split safety look. It's what the Packers utilize quite often under Joe Barry. Like, that's the safe thing to do in this game, to have that safety help over the top, limit the vertical plays, give your boundary cornerbacks a little extra help, a little extra action on the backside. Like, that's a safe thing to do. And we saw the Packers utilize that. And the Chargers, they took advantage with some underneath throws, or a number of underneath throws. Like, Justin Herbert has no problem. If you're going to give him those, he will take those all day to a receiver like Keenan Allen, to his tight end group that fared very well in this game. On the flip side, if you go to cover one and you try to put an additional defender close to the line of scrimmage, either to help in the run or to try to take away some of those short area intermediate throws, now you're leaving your cornerbacks, Corey Ballantyne, practice squad player, Carrington Valentine, 7th round rookie, you're leaving them on an island to a degree. And Matt LaFleur actually complimented Joe Barry after the game in terms of his aggressiveness at times, specifically at the end, to go into that cover one coverage to really try to challenge and take away those, or at least limit those shorter area throws. LaFleur said there's not a lot of defenses that are going to call those types of plays against that offense. So again, isn't to absolve the defense for their performance in this game, isn't to absolve Joe Barry for some of the situational play calling that occurred. There were, again, missed tackles. There were 88 yards in missed tackles on just 2 plays that the Packers give up. That 37-yard run that I referenced from Austin Eckler, where Devontae Wyatt missed him in the backfield, and then Jonathan Owens on that 51-yard touchdown catch and run by the Chargers pass catcher. Like, you got to make that tackle. So again, definitely areas that have to be improved upon. We keep talking about this. A lot of times it's many of the same issues that we've seen over and over, but to a degree, this was a very, very tough matchup for this Packers team. And I thought that, again, the secondary, while they took their lumps at times, Valentine and Ballantyne in particular at the cornerback positions, thought they did a very good job of challenging the Chargers wide receivers, Chargers pass catchers in this game. And again, it was a tough matchup, and we saw the difficulty that came with that. All right, next up, 10 different Packers pass catchers in this game had a reception. All 5 of the Packers wide receivers that were active in this game had a catch, 2 tight ends and 3 running backs, totaling the 10 pass catchers. They were, as I titled the article after the game, the Packers were spreading the love around. Everybody was getting the opportunity, and really everybody, when given that opportunity, was able to make at least one play throughout the course of the game. From the offense's perspective, this was truly a team effort in what we saw from them on the football field. Romeo Doubs led the team in catches with 6. Both he and Watson found the end zone. Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks generated big plays, yards after the catch. They both have this sixth sense for being able to find the soft spot, find space in opposing defenses. Tucker Kraft, we saw him get on the action with some yards after the catch, playing the flat, utilized just how he was often asked to during his time at South Dakota State, get the ball in his hands, yards after the catch opportunities. That's where he excels. Luke Musgrave, reliable target for Jordan Love, 4 receptions. Malik Heath had his first career catch. In addition to that, through a key chip block on Khalil Mack on the play on the final drive that ended up resulting in a pass interference play. So again, contributions from everyone on this team. And what this offense has been missing, one of the things I should say that this offense has been missing for such a large portion of the season is who's that go-to option for Jordan Love. It's a must-have it down. It's a must-have it situation. Like, who does he have to lean on? There hasn't been that one guy for him. The thought coming into the season, the hope was always going to be Christian Watson. Things haven't turned out that way. As of late, it looks like Jaden Reed or Dontavian Wicks has the potential to be that guy. But what we saw on Sunday against the Chargers was that everyone was able to contribute in many of those key situations. And that in itself can be, really stress an opponent. last week I asked Christian Watson, if, as Wicks, as Musgrave, as Reed begin to build upon this momentum, make those explosive plays, what does that do for you taking some of the playmaking burden off your shoulders? And, to paraphrase, and in short, his response was that, yeah, it's great to have that one guy who can, have those big gains, make those explosive plays. But when you have five guys who could be targeted in any situation, all have to varying degrees a different skill set, can do different things, can excel in different situations, like that's going to really stress a defense because they can't just focus in on one guy or even two guys. There's five guys on the football field potentially at one point that could all get the football in any given situation. And when you have that big playability, that versatility that these Packers pass catchers have at tight end and receiver, again, you're really, really going to be able to stress opponents. Last thing I'll say on this, it was almost 3 weeks ago now, leading up to the Rams game, and the position coaches were doing their every other week interviews with us. And Jason Vrabel, wide receivers coach, was at the podium and was, discussing how the practices over the previous few weeks to that, from the receiver room specifically, have been the best that he had ever been a part of. And he didn't just mean this season. He meant since he's been the wide receivers coach of the Green Bay Packers. And at the time, you hear that, and he's talking about how the confidence is building. They're on the right trajectory. We're going to start seeing the results on the football field. And remember, this is in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. But you hear that, and you think that's coach speak. Kind of one of those situations where, what's he supposed to say? We're building, it's things that you would expect a coach to tell you. However, fast forward to today, take a look back at the last few weeks, and it definitely looks like what Vrabel was talking about has now come to fruition and all culminated in this Sunday performance against the Chargers. Like I said, where everybody was contributing to varying degrees, generating big plays, coming up with big in the chain. Everybody had a role in this game for the Green Bay Packers, and the results: Jordan Love's best game, a win in a game where I think many thought that they weren't going to come away with the victory. Like I said, just an impressive performance from the offense. And I thought back to earlier in the offseason where Brian Gutekunst mentioned that, by not bringing in a veteran receiver, tight end, you give these young pass catchers, Jordan Love, the opportunity for them to grow, to build together. And that's what we're seeing right now. So there you have it, my friends. Those are my big takeaways, my key takeaways from the Green Bay Packers performance against the LA Chargers. I appreciate you tuning in. Hit like on the video. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. And you can find all my work over at Packers Wire. So until next time, friends, take care, stay safe. And as always, go Pack Go.